The WWE Universe was left in stunned disbelief tonight, and what unfolded was not just heartbreaking, it was enraging, a brutal reminder of the very real risks superstars take inside the ring, risks that are too often pushed to the edge by a company more concerned with spectacle than safety. Seth Rollins, a cornerstone of WWE and one of the most respected and admired performers in modern wrestling, was rushed from the arena in an ambulance after suffering what appeared to be a catastrophic injury during Monday Night Raw. And while fans reeled from the horror of what they'd just witnessed, backstage, the mood was pure chaos, and in the middle of it all was Becky Lynch, Seth's wife, shaking uncontrollably, her face drenched in tears, as she watched the love of her life carried away, possibly never to walk back through the curtain again. But the horror didn't begin with a single moment, it was the culmination of weeks of negligence, weeks of reckless booking that ignored every visible red flag. Just days ago, Seth had visibly limped away from a grueling match with Bronson Reed. His body was clearly telling him to stop. But instead of rest, instead of time to heal, WWE scheduled him into another high-stakes match, this time against Drew McIntyre, with title implications no less. The result? A horrifying injury that was as predictable as it was devastating. The moment of impact was sickening. As Seth attempted his signature stomp on McIntyre, something went terribly wrong. An audible crack reverberated through the arena, followed by Seth's anguished scream, a sound so raw and full of agony it cut through the crowd like a dagger. McIntyre, visibly shaken, broke character and rushed to his side. That alone was proof this wasn't part of the show. The referee and medics sprinted down the ramp, but in true WWE fashion, the cameras never cut away. No, instead they zoomed in, capturing every wince, every tear, every heartbreaking second as Seth writhed on the mat, clutching his shattered leg. And then came the sight that will haunt fans forever, Becky Lynch sprinting to the ring, not as the man, not as a performer, but as a terrified wife. She wasn't even scheduled to appear, but she raced from wherever she was the moment she heard, only to collapse to her knees beside Seth, cradling him, sobbing, demanding answers from medics who had no words for the devastation unfolding. And what did WWE do next? They cut to commercial, as if this were just another twist in a storyline. As if a man's future, a woman's heartbreak, and a family's nightmare could be packaged, sponsored, and sold. But behind the curtain, the truth was even uglier. Sources inside the company confirmed that Seth had complained for weeks about pain in that same leg. He'd pushed through, loyal to the company, devoted to the fans, unwilling to let anyone down. Yet WWE's medical staff had cleared him to compete, ignoring every warning sign. And now, that decision may have ended his career. The preliminary reports from the hospital were chilling. Doctors believe he suffered a compound fracture of both the tibia and fibula, his lower leg bones were shattered. Worse still, there may be nerve damage, which could result in permanent impairment. Emergency surgery began immediately and could last the entire night. And even with successful reconstruction using screws, plates, and rods, recovery could take up to 2 years, if he's lucky. But luck doesn't seem to be on anyone's side tonight. The backstage chaos didn't end with Seth's stretcher ride. Becky, inconsolable, reportedly lashed out at WWE officials. One source said she screamed at the medical team, accusing them of knowingly putting her husband in harm's way. "You knew he was hurt, and you let him wrestle," she reportedly yelled, before being restrained. This wasn't a performance. This was raw human pain, unfiltered, unprotected, and completely avoidable. Meanwhile, as the chaos unfolded, Wii's stock price quietly ticked up. Investors speculated about how the company would reshape storylines in Seth's absence. Let that sink in, they saw opportunity in a man's suffering. And WWE, cold as ever, has remained silent. No press release, no apology, no admission of fault, just another day in the machine. But fans and wrestlers alike aren't staying quiet. Social media exploded. Hashtags like #pray for Seth and #protect our talent trended worldwide. Wrestlers from every promotion began to speak out. CM Punk, who once walked away from WWE for similar reasons, posted, "This is why I left. Wrestlers aren't toys. They're human beings. I'm praying for Seth and Becky." Others weren't so diplomatic. One current WWE superstar, posting anonymously, said, "If this can happen to Seth, what chance do the rest of us have? We're all terrified." This isn't the first time WWE's medical negligence has come under fire. Daniel Bryan's concussion saga, Edge's spinal injuries, the early retirements of legends like Stone Cold Steve Austin, Kurt Angle, Mick Foley, the list of those broken by this industry grows longer every year. And now Seth Rollins may be added to that tragic list. He was in the prime of his career. At 38, he was putting on some of the best matches of his life, generating buzz with his feud with CM Punk, carrying Monday Night Raw on his back with the kind of charisma and dedication few could match. And all of that could now be taken away. Not by an opponent, not by time, but by corporate carelessness. For Becky Lynch, the cost is unimaginable. A wife forced to watch her husband's dreams be crushed on live television. A performer who now faces the same heartache so many others have endured. Since Seth's hospitalization, she hasn't left his side. She's been in the waiting room, refusing food, refusing sleep, waiting for word on whether her husband will ever walk without pain again, let alone wrestle. And the company she's bled for, the company she's sacrificed for, has offered nothing but silence. The fans feel betrayed. The man they've supported, the performer they've cheered, bought merchandise for, defended online, waited hours in line to meet, he gave everything. And WWE gave him an ambulance ride and a camera crew. There's no way to sugarcoat it. WWE failed Seth Rollins. They failed Becky Lynch. And they failed the fans. The financial losses from losing one of their top stars will hurt, yes, but the moral stain will last even longer. Seth wasn't just a top draw, a workhorse, or a title holder, he was the heartbeat of the show. And the show might now beat without him. Analysts are already speculating how WWE will rewrite storylines, who will fill the void, what matches will be reshuffled. But no one seems to be asking the one question that matters: how do you let this happen to someone who gave you everything? This isn't just a call for better medical protocols. It's a demand for humanity. For accountability. For a shift in a culture that too often forgets that wrestlers are real people, with real families, real pain, and real dreams. Tonight, the wrestling world holds its breath, waiting for updates from the hospital where surgeons fight to rebuild Seth Rollins' shattered leg and preserve what remains of his career. Fans around the world are lighting candles, refreshing social media, and praying that this isn't the end. But prayer alone isn't enough. The time for change is now. No more broken bones ignored. No more warnings dismissed. No more lives ruined for a few more minutes of screen time. This isn't just a wrestling story, it's a human one. And if WWE doesn't finally wake up to the damage they're inflicting, then Seth Rollins won't be the last to fall. But let's hope he's the last who had to fall this hard for someone to finally listen. The road to recovery will be long, painful, and uncertain. But tonight, all of us owe it to Seth Rollins to make sure his suffering sparks something bigger. Because he deserves more than silence. He deserves justice. He deserves healing. And most of all, he deserves to come back not because the company pushed him, but because the world stood up and demanded something better.